Hey everyone, Matt Brady here with Behind the Closing Table. And on today's episode, I'm with Trey White of White Realty down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I've known Trey for a few years now and knew him as a agent working on a team to now running his own brokerage and bringing about a family business that has been a fourth generation business down in Myrtle Beach. So everyone, let me introduce you to Trey White. And Trey, tell us a little about you and how you got started in real estate.
Awesome. Yeah. So, as Matt said, my name's Trey White. I own my own brokerage now, White Realty, but met Matt many years ago when
Mhm.
I was on a team at Remax. That's kind of how I got into the business. Went in on a team with some family friends of ours that, have been in the real estate world down here forever. Was with them for about 4.5 years and then did a short stint at Remax by myself. I say by myself, I had a team and got my
Okay.
cousin to eventually come over with me. And then at that point, I had my broker's license for probably the last 3 years
Mhm.
and always knew that, White Realty and reopening a family business that my great grandfather started in
Awesome.
1964 in
Yeah.
North Myrtle Beach. Uh, I knew reopening that was at some point in the near future. So got my
Mhm.
broker's license. And at that point, it was just kind of a waiting game till, pull the trigger. And there's a couple
Yeah.
moving parts. I only wanted to be in certain locations, but everything
Yeah.
finally aligned towards the end of last year and beginning of this year. I reopened our family business, but to a little bit different effect.
Yeah.
When our family originally had White Realty open way back in the day, in the like I said, he started in '64, so in the '60s,
Okay.
'70s, '80s, a little bit of the '90s, they did some sales. Uh,
Yeah.
got away from sales in the late '90s and went into property management
Okay.
specifically. And then my grandpa retired. My dad took things over. My dad ended up closing doors in 2019 as I was kind of
Okay.
transitioning into the real
Yeah.
estate world. Poor timing on everybody's part, but anyways, uh,
Successful.
made it through.
Yeah.
But we didn't do too much with sales in the later years of White Realty. We had short-term rentals, long-term rentals,
Mhm.
and then the biggest thing that my father did was property manage 27
Oh,
high-rise
wow.
condo homeowners associations. So fortunately enough, I was kind of able to take all of that and our contacts and our business
Mhm.
in the real estate world, but on a different
Yeah.
side of the real estate world, and kind of transition all of that into the sales world.
Nice.
So it was a rough start. It was a grind to start
Mhm.
with, but I always say, fortunately, I felt like I kind of had an upper hand
Yeah.
getting into the sales part of the real estate world, just
Mhm.
because of all the contacts and the longevity of my
Oh, yeah.
family's business down here, and that's kind of what's led me to be able
Yeah.
to do this today.
Yeah.
So
And now your cousin joined you, so it's back to being a family business, right?
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
family business. My cousin Dylan White's working with me, and I have a handful of other agents. And
Nice.
it's kind of one of those things where if it was just me, I'd be just as happy. If I
Yeah.
have 10 agents that
Glad.
work with
Yeah.
that want to work with me, and everybody's happy, I'm fine with that too. I certainly don't want a
Mhm.
a big operation. I do like the close knit family
Yeah.
feel, and I'm the owner, yes, I'm the broker in charge, but I still work every day as well. So
Awesome. Do you think you'll bring back the a side of the property management eventually?
Uh, long-term rentals, yes. We are starting to get a few in the door,
Okay.
and definitely in the near future, we'll probably try to uh, kind of get a plan together to get some
Yeah.
marketing out there to get some more long-term rentals in.
Yeah.
Only because just my
You
belief is
get it
real
in the
estate's a
day, I'm sure
relationship
the
business.
day-to-day business. I'm sure
Yeah.
people ask that just because of the name. They're used
Oh
to
yeah.
that.
No, it's crazy. So we haven't had White Realty open for 7 years now, six and a half,
Mhm.
7 years, and again, we did a lot of short-term rentals. As soon as we brought White Realty back and, we're back up on Google, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, I was able to get our old, web address back, which was pretty
Nice.
cool, and the amount of phone calls I get on a weekly basis of people looking for short-term rentals, they're like, "We loved you guys, we're glad to see you back, we used to rent with y'all for 10
Yeah.
plus years, and we haven't been open for 7 years.
Yeah.
What'd you do the past 7 years is when you were booking a rental?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but people still remember us as the rental side, but trying to just transition everything into the
Okay.
sales side's been
Nice.
not too bad.
Be like, if you want to buy your own rental
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that's
I've
where
tried it.
now
I
where
love people showing
now where
me.
your go-to spot. Awesome. So, if I was to ask a past client that worked with you, whether on the buy side or the sale side or both, what would you hope they said about, working with Trey?
Hopefully all good things. No, so I always say that the sales part, whether I'm representing a buyer or representing a seller, the sales part, the actual transaction is probably the smallest part of my job. And
Hmm.
I know that's probably not what most people think, but it's kind of how I handle my business. The
Yeah.
the selling side is just a small portion. I really take pride in going above and beyond, doing anything that's necessary. Um, I've done everything from drove hours. I've hopped on a plane to handle closings. I've remodeled a 3,400 square foot house for clients of mine, or I
Yeah.
say I remodeled. I was just like the project manager,
Yeah.
but they moved here. They didn't know anybody.
Hmm.
So I put all my contacts, in touch with them and helped them pick out paint colors and flooring. And so the sales side of what I do is minuscule compared to the part that I play throughout,
Awesome.
somebody's
Yeah.
either transaction, whether they're buying or selling. I just take pride in going above and beyond. And I think majority of my clients, if not 100% of them, that would probably be the first thing they say.
That's awesome. That's a great segue into what do you think people misunderstand about the life of being a real estate agent that, they see on TV or,
Right. Yeah.
they see on social media. What do you
It's not
think
all
what do you
definitely
think is the
not
number
all
one thing people misunderstand?
yeah, it's definitely not all sunshine and rainbows like, television and these Netflix TV shows
Yeah.
make it out to be. And I think the biggest misconception is exactly kind of how I handle my business. A lot of people think that, I just sit back here in my office and people just
Yeah.
flow in the door and they tell me what they want to buy and the
Yeah.
end. Or somebody calls me, they want to sell their house. I put it on the MLS and the end.
Yeah.
I think what a lot of people just don't understand is what I see the right way to do business. It's a relationship business to me. I
Hmm.
mean, I try to turn every single client into a lifelong friend.
Yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of people just don't see the time, see the effort, see the things that we do behind closed doors in order to get from point A to point B, whether
Yeah.
that's point A starting with a buyer and their, very beginning stages of looking. I mean, I've worked with people for 2 or 3 years. I've stayed in touch with them. They call me when they're in town. We might go see a property or two. We might go grab lunch. They might come down here on a vacation and we might not even discuss real estate,
Yeah.
but I worked with them for 2 or 3 years, answering questions, showing property,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden they buy one day. Well, Trey's worked those 2 or 3 years for free,
Yeah.
but that's not how I look at it. Like I said, it's a relationship business to me. So if I can have that impact on somebody, I know they're gonna share the word, spread my name, and
Yeah.
refer me business. But it's definitely the hours that people don't see.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and I kind of put stuff on social media, but I kind of don't either.
Hmm.
I try not to give that,
Yeah.
just listed, just sold, just listed, just sold, because that's not all I do. So
I feel like when I see that, a lot of discounts the services you actually
exactly,
do.
exactly. No, I'm kind of one. I keep to myself. I put my head down and I just I just go to work. So and
Awesome.
that's how I handle my business.
So, you work with a lot of buyers, you work with a lot of listings. What's one mistake you see on both sides? A mistake you see buyers make and a mistake you see sellers make before they list a home.
So I deal a lot with investors.
Hmm.
Um, just because we are a transient area.
Yeah.
One mistake on buyers' part, I mean, you're going to have your cliche answers of, not getting pre approved, looking in too
Yes.
high of a price point. I think in our area, there's a bunch of like smaller factors that
Hmm.
play a big role. And we were talking about this before we hopped
Yeah.
on today. Um, if I have a client that's looking for an investment property and they don't care where it's at, they just want a good return on their investment and something
Hmm.
that's going to rent. Um, they might fall in love with Cherry Grove. They might want a house on a channel because it's beautiful. But what they don't understand is, okay, if you're getting a mortgage, you've got flood insurance.
Hmm.
If you're on a navigable channel in Cherry Grove, now you have a dredging assessment. So those are two factors right off the top that if you bought another property elsewhere in town that was the
Hmm.
same price point, that's not in a flood zone or that's not on a channel where you have the dredging assessment,
Yeah.
you've probably just pocketed an extra 12 to $15,000,
Oh, yeah.
especially if the rental numbers are the same. So there's a lot of like little factors like that that I see buyers in our area make a
And
mistake.
I can account for that. So before I knew Trey, I was living up in the northern part of South Carolina, and I was looking to buy a second home slash investment property at the beach. So I don't know if my agent really knew the area. We found a house, we did it. Well, she never told me that Cherry Grove floods. So our first time going down there moving a couch, it's raining, and I see a car floating down the road from the rain. I was
Never
like, that'd have
fails.
been nice to know, where we're looking at. If, depending on certain streets there, if it
Yeah.
rains, you're gonna have some flooding. So
Yeah.
I
So
can
I
I
would
can
say,
attest for that.
right. Yeah. So I would say that's kind of a more like specific area type
Yeah,
mistake that I see buyers make when
yeah,
purchasing down here. Um, as far as sellers go, mistakes sellers make, um, one that this is just my philosophy.
mhm,
Everybody's got their own, philosophies.
yeah,
But one of my biggest mistakes that I see sellers make is not listing when they're just ready. They take
okay,
somebody's advice. Every listing appointment I go into, a seller
mhm,
is inevitably going to ask me, should we wait for the spring? Should we wait for the summer? Do we list on, the beginning of the month or the end of the month?
yeah,
They try to, time it right.
mhm,
My philosophy to a seller is always when the time is right for you because you don't know when that buyer's out there.
yeah,
Um, I have a listing right now where the time wasn't right for the seller yet,
mhm,
which is okay. She wanted to list come summer. Well, about 4 weeks before we listed, and we'd already met before this point,
yeah,
she wanted to wait till the summer because she thought activity was going to, be there. My,
mhm,
I told her my philosophy. Our average days on market is up. Things take time. You don't know when that
yeah,
buyer's out there. I say it's better to list now. And that's just not me being salesy, wanting a listing right here,
yeah,
right then and there. Um, well, her neighbor listed, went under contract like that, and closed all before we were ready to list.
yeah,
So, and now we're on the market. We haven't had a showing yet. We're still
mhm,
new on the market. We just put it
yeah,
up about a week ago. But anyways, you never know when that buyer is out there.
yeah,
So trying to estimate a time frame or trying to predict a time frame is
mhm,
almost impossible.
yeah,
So my go-to on both buying and selling side, but since I said the seller side,
yeah,
list your home whenever everything's ready to go, get it listed.
mhm,
Don't sit around and wait. Don't try to predict anything because you can't. And we don't have the crystal ball to tell you when that buyer's
all
going to be
right.
out there. So in her sense, if she would have listed, probably already, under contract and closed on by
Oh,
now.
it's the same thing with people wanting interest rates.
Right.
The second you wait for rates to drop, something happens in the news and they shoot up the next day. So
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, it
it's
sounds cliche to say, but, none of us have that crystal ball. So on the
yeah,
buying and selling side, whenever the time is right for you,
mm,
purchase or sell.
definitely. So you've definitely been a part of a lot of negotiations. What's a negotiation strategy, unless it's a trade secret? But
Mm,
yeah,
got a
if
few up my sleeve.
a newer agent or someone getting into the market, or even someone listening that's in their home buying journey or their home selling journey right now, is there a negotiation strategy, or something with negotiations that you tell your clients to take into account
Right.
whenever?
Um, I mean, in our market specifically right now, I'd say we're definitely in more of a buyer's market. Um,
Hmm.
just because our average days on market is up, our inventory is a lot higher than it has been in past years, meaning buyers have more options.
Yeah.
Um, that's a dang good question.
Well, one thing I think about too, and maybe you can work off this, is going under contract's just the first of many negotiations along
Right,
the process.
right.
There's going to be inspection repairs, whoever know
Yeah,
what else might show up. You're going to have to negotiate with these people along the way. So you don't want to start off on a wrong foot.
right.
Everyone's trying to get a great deal, but just
Exactly.
like when you're selling your house, you're going to want a offer at a certain point. So just when you're on the buy side, just don't try to just think you're trying to get the best price. When the shoe's on the other foot, you're trying to get the best price.
Exactly. I always try to take into consideration too, like depending on, and a lot of this is going to be property
Yeah,
specific too, but I always try to take an account for, and have myself have a conversation with the listing side, what's important to the seller, even before we make that initial
yeah,
offer, what's important to the seller. Are they selling to buy locally? Are
Hmm.
they, if they are they making it contingent on that? If so, have they found a property? Because then a faster closing
Yeah.
is in their best interest. Or if they are selling or, moving
Yeah.
locally and they haven't found a place yet, then maybe we give them a little bit more time.
Yeah.
So I think having those questions up front, like what's important to the seller when you represent the buyer,
Yeah.
finding out what's important to the seller can really play a factor
Yeah.
into that initial offer. And of course, you have your due diligence period. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a home inspection done.
Yeah.
There's a few things here and there that, and again, all situational based, but like
Yeah.
recently I had a client, we made an offer on a house. It was
Hmm.
probably a little bit lower than the seller was expecting. We played the counter game back and forth. Well, my buyer was going to remodel the entire house.
Yeah.
He wasn't too concerned about what, little items were going to
Yeah.
show up on a home inspection report. We knew the roof's age, we knew the HVAC system's age, we knew the age of the water heater.
Hmm.
So we knew the mechanicals and everything that was going to cost money was
You already had
relatively
that
new,
cost. Yeah. And
but everything else, he was going to completely gut the house, all new flooring, all new kitchen cabinets, countertops, the whole 9 yards, rip out the master bathroom and redo it. So from that standpoint, we said, okay, well, we're at this price, but we'll put on an addendum that we can still have a home inspection done during our due diligence period,
yeah.
but we're going to let you know up front that we're not going to ask you to make any repairs or give any credits
Yeah.
towards repairs that are found in the home inspection. And from a seller's mind, the seller's always going to be concerned of what's somebody going to find with my house, because
Yeah.
bottom line is, as a buyer, you're paying a home inspector to go do their job. They're going to find issues with the house. I always
Hmm.
just say you got to figure out if it's any significance or not. Are
Exactly.
they actual issues, or are they just little maintenance items? So you can kind of appease the seller a little bit and maybe
Hmm.
have a little bit more buying power by agreeing to that. But again,
Yeah.
that's situational based. You don't know. I mean, if you don't plan on doing any
Yeah.
work to the house and the house is beautiful as it is, then I probably can't suggest that's a way to go.
Yeah.
But there's little tactics that I change even throughout like the negotiation, and that's one
That's
of them.
why who you work with matters, not
Exactly.
just because
Exactly.
you're friends with someone or they're a family friend. You need
Exactly.
to
There's a
have
lot
someone
of
that has the experience.
yeah, there's a lot of fine details that no one really ever takes into account for that can play a big factor in, a purchase price or, money out of your pocket at the end
Oh
of the
yeah.
day.
And I think you're in a great position to answer this question, especially with the Myrtle Beach market being, yes, you have primary residences, but you have a lot of second homes, investment properties. As if someone's thinking about listing or something like that, is there something that people spend thousands of dollars on that maybe they don't get the dollar back when they try to sell their house, that they think, oh, it's going to add so much value to my home, and then it really
Absolutely.
doesn't make a difference?
Absolutely. I see it time and time again. A seller will call, I go over for my listing appointment, and they're concerned about the paint and the carpet, and do I need to swap out my countertops, and what do I need to do?
Yeah.
Again, everybody's got their own philosophy.
Uh-huh.
My take on that is to always just price the property accordingly.
Yeah.
Every buyer has their own taste. Just
Hmm.
because you think, you might need to repaint your entire house agreeable gray because that's
Yeah.
the end thing right now, even though I think that's kind of that color's fading. But
Yeah.
anyways, they want to paint their whole entire house. Well, what if that buyer doesn't see value in that? Now you just spent $4 or $5,000 and you're not getting that return.
Yeah.
My biggest take on that is I only will ever suggest, and I'll tell them this, don't
Hmm.
don't do that. Like
Yeah.
if the time comes, maybe have in the back of your mind that okay, I can offer a credit for paint, but
Yeah.
the only thing I ever recommend a seller to do is going to be those like first impression type things.
Hmm.
Have the house pressure washed if it's dirty on the
So yeah,
outside.
that's what I want to ask next. What do you think
Yeah,
is a good investment? Like
yeah.
landscaping?
So
Would you say
yeah,
landscaping is a good one to an
yes,
extent?
yeah.
Or
So I think
okay.
any amount that isn't a large amount of money,
Yeah.
but any small amount of money that you can put into your house that, like I said, is going to have that first impression um, be better than not.
Yeah.
So a little bit of landscaping, pressure washing the house. Yes, if you've got kids or there's a scratch on your wall or paint's
Yeah.
peeling somewhere, fix those items. I'm not saying go spend thousands of
Yeah.
dollars in repainting. I'm not
Mhm.
saying if you have carpet, maybe you get your carpet cleaned. A
Yeah.
lot of people think that's expensive. It's really not. But
You can get a carpet
uh,
cleaner from the grocery store and do it yourself.
exactly, exactly. So cleaning, yeah. I mean, just doing those items that are gonna have somebody like feeling warm and fuzzy about your
Yeah.
house is money well spent. And usually those items, in the grand scheme of things, are not much cost at all.
Okay.
But yeah, I definitely don't recommend someone sinking, ripping out all their flooring and putting brand new LVP flooring in, or ripping up carpet in bedrooms just to put LVP in the bedrooms because that buyer might have wanted carpet in there.
Yeah.
You never know. So I never, I never suggest people to do things that aren't, at least going to make them more than the dollar they spent on it back.
Awesome. What is so say someone is a first time home buyer and they're meeting with a few different agents. What do you think's the best question someone should be asking potential buyer agents that they're interviewing? And then we'll ask on the other side, if you have a listing coming up, and I'm sure in your market it's different. Are you selling something that's a condo on the water versus a
Right.
home sitting back a little bit more? You'd give a different question to ask, those
Exactly.
listings.
So on the buyer side, as a consumer looking for an agent, I would really hone in on the experience part,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't give a lot of weight to, a lot of people, and I went through it as well. I mean, I got my license at 20, let's see, I don't even know, 23 maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah, 23 years old. So I still look like a 23-year-old,
Yeah.
just
It's
gotten
the
out of
volume
school.
in your
And
transactions rather than the age of the agent.
yes, yeah. So,
Yeah.
it's hard to cross that, well, how long have you had your license for? Because I'd only had my license for a year, but I would put up my knowledge because my family's
Yeah.
history in the real estate world and my history being a born and
Yeah.
raised local of North Myrtle Beach and in our area.
Yeah.
I'd put up my knowledge being, licensed day one, pretty much up against anybody's. Now,
Yeah.
when it gets down to the transaction itself, eh, I might have some hiccups, but I would definitely hone in on somebody that really knows the area,
Hmm.
truly knows the area, because you might run into, depending on where you're at, where you're buying, you're going to run into some things that not every agent's going to
Yeah.
know, especially if they just moved there and have their license.
Yeah.
Um, so that would be my number one, is
Okay.
finding somebody that really knows the area, that is obviously looking out for your best interest.
Hmm.
My sellers hate to hear this probably, even though I've never had one tell me that. My buyers appreciate it, but I'm the worst salesman that's a salesman. I will talk you out of doing something, whether that's buying or selling, before I talk you into it.
Yeah.
And I think finding somebody that has those values is
Yeah.
valuable, because at the end of the day, yes, sales is how I put food on the table for my family and a roof over their head.
Hmm.
But being a good human
Yeah.
gets you to that point. So find somebody that's knowledgeable, that isn't just, closing hungry, that
Yeah.
truly knows what they're doing is going to be the
Yeah.
best value. Of course, everybody's
Definitely.
got their family member that just got their real estate license. And I'm not saying don't use them, because
Yeah.
everybody has to start somewhere,
Yeah.
but maybe ask that they seek a little bit of help.
Yeah. Exactly. Have a good mentor.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
on the listing side, what's a question that, if they're interviewing, because it's probably more on the listing side. I would guess you interview more agents probably on the listing side than on the buy side. I don't
Typically.
know. Yeah. What
Typically.
what do you think is an important question to ask if you're thinking about listing your property?
Yeah. So I always recommend, and I even tell, most of my clientele is going to be, referrals, family,
Hmm.
friends, just because the longevity of my
Yeah.
history in North Myrtle. So usually I have some sort of relationship,
Connection.
but
Yeah.
I run into times where I don't. And I always recommend the seller speak to more agents.
Yeah.
So don't just interview one, interview a handful. Um, at the end of the day, we're all going to put your house on the MLS.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, we can all put an open house sign in the yard on the weekends.
Yeah.
There's things that every agent's going to do that they'll tell you they do it differently, or, our marketing strategy or anything else. Um, Again, I kind of go back to just honing in on, your experience, um, how well diverse are you with our area, and being able to explain the value in a certain property or value in my property. when it
Yeah.
comes down to the question of, well, why are you listed where you're
Yeah.
listed? I want you to be able to stand up and be able to back it up. I want you to
Yeah.
be able to, you know, provide that rather
And
than just saying, oh, that's just what the market said we should be listed at.
I think a underestimated thing, especially, when you have that listing, is when you said you're in a buyer's market now. Someone like Trey has a whole Rolodex of agents to push a property out to, that, to drum up business that a
Right.
newer agent or someone that doesn't do a lot of transactions may not have. Is you have more avenues to go down for unique properties, for different
Exactly.
thing like that, that can drum up some interest, especially if you work with a lot of investors. That's a whole nother potential buyer pool that your normal agent might not have access to,
Right.
with it.
Right. No, that there's definitely that
Yeah.
side of it as well. Again, just working with somebody that's got
Yeah.
experience. And this is just my take on it and just where we're at, but I would assume there's others that have, this is
Yeah.
a thing that's, probably nationwide, but you know, I find it funny whenever you call somebody another agent that's got a 609 area code. I'm only using that because that's where my wife's from. So anybody with a 609 area code, don't take offense to this.
Yeah.
But agents in our area that move down here
Mhm.
that don't change their number.
Yeah. Change
You
it to
have a
local.
609 number, or you have
Yeah.
an out of state number,
Yeah.
but on your voicemail where you advertise yourself as, the beach living expert, or,
Yeah.
the Grand Strand realtor, whatever the case may be. Um, just finding somebody that, like I said, not necessarily a true local, but just
Yeah.
knows the area, that takes pride in that and knowing the
Mhm.
area, rather than somebody that, they may have sold real estate in New Jersey for 50 years. They might been New Jersey's number one agent for 40 of
Yeah.
those 50 years. But when they come down here, it's a whole new market. It's a whole different
Oh, yeah.
market.
Definitely.
So, not that saying you only have to use
Yeah.
local people, but just
I
find
It's important.
exactly. Yeah. That
Yeah.
might not be a
Yeah.
great take for all areas, but definitely where we're at, where it's so transient and people are coming from all over.
Mhm.
And I mean, there's things here that you probably wouldn't run into in a real estate transaction elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. So you've, you shot
And
up the
I always say I would never sell real estate anywhere else either, because I wouldn't know what to do. I couldn't
Yeah.
do you couldn't put me in the Midwest and say, "Hey, Trey, sell a house here." I know nothing
Yeah.
at that
Exactly.
point. So I mean, I'm sure I could learn, but so don't
Yeah.
anyone take offense to that.
No, no worries. So, you shot up the ranks at, your other brokerage you were at before this. What if someone was new into real estate, that maybe didn't have, you know, a big sphere right now? What would you say
Right.
is a top thing that newer agents can do to get started in this business that maybe a lot of people don't do? Or,
Gotcha. No,
what's a good piece of advice to a newer agent looking to get
yeah,
into the business?
absolutely. So I run into this situation kind of a lot. I mean, all of
Mhm.
my friends I grew up with, or family members that have kids, they're, just now kind of getting into the real world, and maybe they're
Yeah.
thinking about getting into real estate. So I run into new agents all the time. My biggest piece of advice is to surround yourself and be around people that are actually doing business. Um, I think my take on this is might be different than others, but I started on a team. Yes, I knew some about real estate beforehand
Yeah.
because of my family, but I started on a team, and I give those two guys all the credit in the world. Love them to
Yeah.
death. Um, they truly expedited my real estate career.
Mhm.
And just because of their longevity in the real estate business, how they handle their business. Um, so surrounding yourself with either other agents, if you don't go the team route, I would probably recommend going the team route.
Yeah.
Um, you kind of have an upper hand at that point. If you're with a bigger brokerage, yes, you can do open houses for other, you know, agents
Mhm.
listings in your brokerage and stuff like that. But if you go a team route and you're with a successful team, you can use, you know, they're just sold and just listing
Yeah.
posts, and there's a lot of things that
Yeah.
are valuable to make you seem like you're doing business, even though behind
Mhm.
closed doors that no one knows, you may not be getting a paycheck for
Yeah.
the next 4 months, but
Yeah.
no one needs to know that. So you can kind of not, you know, portray yourself in
Yeah.
incorrect way. But I think there's value in that too, because from the outside looking in, someone's going to be thinking, wow,
Hmm.
they're doing business. They hit the ground running. And that's true. You may have your knowledge is there. Your transactions may not be personally, but your knowledge is there because you've
Yeah.
surrounded yourself. If you don't go the team route, I would definitely go, the route of finding a company that offers trainings, that offers
Yeah.
daily classes. Of course, those might be your bigger companies. I certainly don't have that here.
Hmm.
Our trainings and classes that we offer is just kind of like on a case by case basis, and
Yeah.
it's all up here.
Yeah.
But again, we're small, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with going that route either. Um, but just basically, surrounding yourself with opportunities
Hmm.
to hear someone talk about real estate and to
Yeah.
be around someone that sells real estate or classes on contracts and situations,
Yeah.
because a lot of those companies are going to have their bigger agents come in and kind of give an example of a story or a situation that they were in based on whatever that topic of the day is for that
Yeah.
class. But just diving into it full steam ahead,
Yeah.
and doing it as a full-time job, because it is a full-time job. If you treat it as a part-time job,
I think
good
there's a
luck.
different sense of urgency when
Absolutely.
you jump full in and you need to do it rather than, you have something to fall back on.
Exactly.
And I think a big takeaway from what you just said is how you talked about you had all that prior experience from your family, but it was just as important to be mentored by two guys that were in this industry to go over the other side that you may not have got to see as a
Right.
kid growing up with the transactions and that kind of stuff that they can
Right.
help you overcome stuff that comes up in a transaction,
Yeah. No, it's
that
kind
you
of
have
it's
someone
kind
to
of
bounce
sad,
ideas off.
the real estate school teaches you all the laws, which are the most important part, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, where I got my license from, they said, we're not teaching you how to sell real estate. We're teaching you how to stay out of an orange jumpsuit, which is true.
Yeah.
But you get your real estate license and you don't know where to start. You don't know. I mean, if you had a buyer walk through the door and say, "Hey, I want to buy a house," you're going to be twiddling your thumbs saying, "I don't know what to do."
Oh
So
yeah.
just surrounding yourself with people that are actually doing business on a day to day basis,
Oh yeah.
it's
It's
always going to expedite your career.
It's like when I was a firefighter and EMT. When they teach you in school is like you said, so you don't get in trouble. And then when you're
Right.
out in the streets, you really learn what it takes to do the job,
You really learn what to do. Yeah.
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 Awesome.
And there really is only one way to fully learn all that, and from the start, that's being around people that are in
Yeah.
business.
So we covered a lot of real estate. Well, let's quickly hit on a little bit about, Trey. So when you're not in the real estate streets, what are you doing to pass the time? I know you're a big Coastal Carolina fan and
Huge
golfer.
coastal fan. Huge coastal fan. That stems from my dad. Before my dad went into the real estate world, he was assistant athletic director in charge of media relations at
Okay.
Coastal for 14 years.
Nice.
Uh, my mom is originally from Indiana. She came down to play basketball at Coastal back in the
Okay.
day, and that's how they ended up meeting. So I would have been shunned if I went anywhere else. But because of that, yes, we are huge Coastal fans. We travel for baseball and football and
Okay.
support pretty much all the home games in any sport, really.
Yeah.
So huge Coastal fans. I've been married for, my wife's gonna shoot me if she sees this. This year will be 6 years.
All right.
We have a 4-year-old that will be 5 in November, daughter, and then we have another daughter that just turned 1 in April.
Awesome.
Um, so
And you're a really
between
good golfer, aren't you?
uh, we won't
No.
use the term really good or golfer, really. I mean, I enjoy it, but
Yeah. Well, you're in a
shoot,
great area
she
for it. You're in a
yeah,
great.
statement.
They'll
So
leave a
I
comment
can't even
below.
lie because this is
They'll
going
leave
to
a
be
comment below.
public. So yeah, I do enjoy getting out there and golfing. I say I use that time to kind of clear my mind and take a step
Yeah.
back, but then it frustrates me and I end up working anyways because I'd rather be
Okay.
doing that than shanking every other shot.
Okay. I
Um,
kn- I know you said that you wouldn't do real estate anywhere else, but if you didn't live in Myrtle Beach or if you weren't in real estate, what would you think you'd be doing right?
I really have no idea. Um,
Yeah.
I've got
It's
no
hard when your family's done, like it's a family
Yeah,
business.
yeah. I
Is
mean,
that?
I was always, and most people say, well, oh, you had this handed to you. Not really. As I was getting into the business, my dad shut it down,
Yeah. And
and
like
then
you said, it was more property management and you went the total
exactly,
other route.
exactly. So I mean, everything that I've done, yes, I'd give my family, 95% credit, but I take a little
Yeah.
bit of credit for being
Yeah.
able to do what I've done since. But I really don't know what I would be doing.
Okay.
I went to school for early childhood education.
Okay. Maybe a teacher.
Basketball's
Yeah. Maybe.
basketball's my first love.
Yeah. A coach.
So
There you go.
that was kind of the route that I was thinking. And only because I was shunned out of the real estate world because my dad was on a different side of it with
Yeah.
dealing with, we had 300 weekly rentals, 150 annual rentals, and we property managed 27 high-rise oceanfront homeowners associations. So it's impossible to make every single one of those,
Hmm.
clients and owners happy.
Yeah.
So he's constantly dealing with issues and problems and putting out fires, and it's 24/7. I mean, I remember
Hmm.
him having to wake up at 2 a.m. for an emergency call at one of his buildings. So, the money was good, but the quality of life wasn't.
Yeah.
And that was definitely kind of pushed on me of do what you love.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much you make, just be
Hmm.
happy.
Awesome.
And
Great
I do what I
philosophy.
love and I'm
Yeah.
happy and I'm in real estate. So
There you go.
that's I don't really know what I would be doing. That's a good
Hmm.
question. I try not to think about that because everyone's like, "Oh, what's your plan B if this fails?" It's not
You don't
going
have
to. So
one. Just
I won't
it's
let it
this.
happen.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a plan B or another option, which I
So
think is a good thing. It's what
yeah,
keeps me going. I definitely
definitely.
think being in the real estate world, you have to have a little bit of fear. You
Yeah.
have to be you can't be numb to the fact of, what if that faucet does get cut off? I had a great month last month, but who knows what this month holds?
Yeah.
You can't have that mentality. You've got to have a little fear in your system to keep you
Definitely.
going.
Definitely. So if someone's watching this and they want to get a hold of you, we'll drop your team link for Facebook and Instagram
Perfect.
here. What is there best way for someone to get if someone's watching this and they want you to represent them on the buyer list side, go through your Facebooks or your website, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Call my phone number, my
All right.
personal cell number.
All right.
We've got a company line. It also rings my phone. 9 times out of 10, if you call that number, once we hang up, I'll text you my cell number. That's just
Okay.
to kind of avoid some of the spam calls that we were getting from whatever other industries whenever we
Yeah.
opened up our business. I was trying to
Yeah.
push that away from my personal cell phone number, but
Yeah.
our company phone and my phone it's the
Oh,
same one.
perfect.
So
So we'll have all that in the caption of this video so you can reach out to Trey. Trey, thanks for your time today. It was
no,
a great
absolutely. It's a
conversation.
pleasure.
Got a lot of good insight from down in Myrtle Beach.
All right, man.
Everyone have a great day. And this is your latest episode of Behind the Closing Table. Have a great day,
Appreciate it,
everybody.
Matt.